Hey, howdy ho, all you beautiful ass bitches out there. Welcome back to the $2 Film Club, and you know what? We're talking about Scary Movie. I don't know if I should refer to this movie as Scary Movie or Scary Movie 6.
I think we should just call it Scary Movie 6.
Yeah, just for the sake of the conversation.
Because nobody calls Scream 5 Scream. It's just too difficult.
Dude, I call it Cream. I call it Cream 5. No, that's so bad. Yeah, so I don't really know where to start with this just because it's been so long since... I think the fifth one, the Scary Movie after the Wayans brothers, because we did the first three. The first two were made by the Wayans, and then the third one, as we said, was not. The Weinstein Company fired them. They didn't have the same ideas about what to do going forward. And I'll say this. It's very nice getting everyone back in this film. However, I think all of the new additions to this movie, like everyone playing all the kids and stuff, are really, really bad. And I'm trying to say this in the nicest way possible because I'm just so conflicted with this movie because everything that I liked about the original first two films is in here, but they spend so much time on all these new characters just rehashing essentially Scream 5. But it's just like, they're not good. And I'm trying to be nicer about it, but like that's my biggest takeaway from this movie because I don't think like, yeah, we'll get into like the reference stuff and all that in a little bit. But I think just right out the gate, I wish this film for me had been more dedicated to the original actors than I think it turned out to be.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with you. They're definitely not as memorable as the original cast, and it's definitely more awkward knowing like halfway through the movie it kind of stops being about spoofing Scream 5 or whatever, and the children characters kind of like they stop being important characters. And it does become more of like the older generation, like their stage to pretty much just run wild. So it's weird. I think they work for the most part, like in the beginning, and obviously, you know, we'll get into the ending a little later. But yeah, I don't know. It is very jarring, like their inclusion.
Yeah, and I think they needed to like sort a few things out when they were writing the script in terms of I feel like characters like Doofy and Gale Hailstorm, as much as I enjoyed them in this movie and it gave me a nice like reminiscence of that first film, they feel essentially useless in this when I feel like they could have just given more time to the original core four, the two Wayans, and then Anna Faris and I was going to say Brenda Song, but that's not right. Regina Hall. And that's why I'm just conflicted because they just slip so easily back into those characters that the second Shorty comes on screen, bro, I am already laughing. Like, it's just instantly hilarious, and I think Marlon Wayans is just so tied to who this character is that it's so much harder for me to believe a lot of these younger actors trying to kind of do the same thing in this one. Like, the one actor that kind of really bothered me in this was the Cindy's daughter in this film, because I don't know if you got the same thing, but I feel like she tried too hard to be like Anna Faris to a point where it was just like a really bad version of what they wanted Anna Faris to be in that first movie.
I thought it was weird, like while we were watching it, that because the whole setup is the same as Scream 5, and I thought that they would kind of have her character be closer to what's her name?
Sydney?
No, what is her name? Sam or something? Sam.
Oh,
Carpenter
Sam. Yeah.
Yeah. So, or Melissa Barrera's character. That's so. I thought
should have just said that.
Yeah, I thought she should have been a little more like Sam's character in Scream 5, which it didn't end up being that way. And I'm not saying that it needs to be like the exact same, because obviously, you know, Cindy isn't a 1-to-1 translation from Sydney, But it was odd that because at the point it gets to a point where it's just like, oh, so we have two Cindy characters and they're both kind of like fighting for screen time and whatnot.
Yeah, and to me, they're just doing the same thing, going back and forth. And for me, just I don't know if it's because Anna Faris has been playing like this character so often, or like over the course of 26 years, or well, no, like 27, 28, when that first one came out, that it just feels so weird that they just decide to make the exact same character just younger for her, and to me is really not funny, and I find her quite annoying throughout the film. And I'm only mentioning it for this one specific character because I don't think the others get as bad as her.
Yeah, I mean they're not on screen as much either. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if there was more of a point to her character's inclusion, it probably wouldn't bother me as much. I'm not saying it's horrible. It is odd choice to make her just Cindy 2.0, and she doesn't. I don't think she adds much to the character.
Well, I will say though, her and is the boyfriend's name in this film also Jack, like playing a Jack Quaid's name?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I said that before. I just said I accidentally said Jack Quaid. But like, it's really unfortunate because I thought the introduction to the characters was actually really funny, but I don't know if that's more because of the Final Destination reference just being like so ridiculously outrageous to a point where, dude, when we were watching that scene and laughing at it, that's literally everything I've thought of whenever I've been on a roller coaster. And I'm like someone who loves being on a roller coaster, but like when you get shot out at like the station or something, I always think like, what happens if like the guardrail just comes off at the top and we just fly out? And so seeing all that kind of unfold, and like I forgot the name with the park being like Final Destination, you won't make it out alive. Like
yeah,
that's the
something
name
like
of the park.
that. Yeah.
Like I thought was really funny, and like that's where I wish like some of the humor leaned a little bit more into, rather than like the almost spot on references.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like the setup. Because even though I like Scream 5, obviously I recognize it has some issues. Not as much as the other ones, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it kind of goes back to the same thing the same issue I kind of took with the first Scary Movie, is that I don't think it necessarily does enough with the idea of spoofing on the Scream movie that it is, that it didn't feel like it was necessarily warranted. Or sorry, go ahead.
No. I was gonna kind of piggyback off what you're saying here, because for me, this is where I'd wish you had watched Scary Movie 4 and 5 before, because I think the one thing that like kind of rubbed me the wrong way is the first two Scary Movies are so good at keeping a through plot line of just one or two main horror films, and then they throw in the references in between there. But I think the biggest issue with like Scary Movie 4 and 5 is it gets rid of like that structure, and it's just making fun of everything to make fun of it without actually meaning much. And this film tries to do a bit of both, and I think that's like one of my biggest gripes is if they use like a second modern horror film to kind of mix in with this, rather than just being a straight spoof on Scream 5 and doing a bunch of like meaningless like references to like The Substance, Long Legs, like all those little things where they just kind of joke at it in one scene and then never go back to it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the first like 30 to 45 minutes of this movie is pretty much completely dedicated to parodying scary. Or, Jesus Christ, I did something.
Dude, I know.
Scream 5, and then like halfway through the movie, it just becomes a mishmash of all these different like horror properties that have come, and a lot of them are more recent. Like there was Long Legs.
Get Out.
Get Out. That's not as recent, but there was like Sinners and obviously Final Destination Bloodlines, but that's more towards the beginning. I'm trying to think. Oh, The Substance, Terrifier, like all of that stuff just kind of comes out of nowhere. And I thought they were funny, like in and of themselves. Like I thought the jokes were funny, but they kept happening when it got to a point where I was like, okay, we've completely abandoned the main plot of the movie, and we're just now dedicating like the entire last 45 minutes of the movie to, referencing all of these other pop culture horror moments that don't really tie into anything else that's going on. And that kind of frustrated me. And I do agree with what you're saying. I think if they had because the first one was Scream, and then I Know What You Did Last Summer. The second one was The Haunting.
It was more of like the haunted house, but like there's so many of like those versions of the film where people are just in one location that I think it's easier to get away with just kind of using one film as like the through line.
Yeah, but like, I think with Scary Movie 2, like the like supernatural haunted house type stuff, like they all kind of follow the same structure, so it's much more palatable when it's just throwing a bunch of references at the screen, because they all kind of do fit the same mold. And the same could kind of be said about slashers. And this is a problem that we had with like Scary Movie 3, where even though it does use two movies, they're so wildly different and they kind of don't like line up with each other. And so it creates for like a really jarring experience. And I feel like this one it's a jarring experience because there isn't another like level to it. Like, I think if they had tried to parody more of like maybe like the Halloween trilogy, even though I haven't seen those, obviously they're basing Cindy's character portrayal off of Laurie Strode and like that first one. So I feel like and it's the same, like the killer comes back and whatnot, and trying to mess with the descendants and kill the main chick again. It's kind of the same thing. So I feel like if they had like stuck to those two as like the main parodies, some of the others, it could have alleviated some of the other issues with like the secondary references, let's say.
I also think that like they included maybe one too many way too recent horror films.
Oh yeah.
And just horror projects that, for me, like the fact that they did Sinners is like a cool concept and idea, but
it comes out of nowhere though.
It comes out of nowhere, and it really feels like they just kind of threw it in because Sinners is a big horror film that just took off. Like the Wednesday stuff with the one daughter being Tuesday just like felt like a very lackluster like joke because of they don't want to get copyright striked for it or whatever.
My thing with that is I feel like they didn't do enough, because I feel like they didn't do enough with her being like an actual parody of Wednesday. And I think the only reason why is because obviously Jenna Ortega plays both characters in like the official projects. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. At that point, you could have just called her, Jenna Campbell, and we could have just moved on. And that's another thing. Like the main daughter, her name is Sarah.
Yeah, that's right.
Even though like you'd expect her name to be like Melissa Campbell or something, just based off of. Or you know what I mean, like just based off of the way that they handle all the other names, because like the Jack Quaid ripoff is Jack Kirsch, but you get what I'm saying, like it's such a wild thing to like be like, oh, we're just gonna call her Tuesday, and because that's funny, I guess.
And what's really unfortunate is like not like anything to do with the movie itself, but I guess more so the cutting room table stuff, is like they cut a lot of the stuff out of this. Like the fact with Longlegs, there's a whole scene of them interrogating him from like that movie with the dude with the small hand from Scary Movie 2 that they just totally took out. And for me, it makes the one like the black person joke being the bad guy, it really just kind of falls flat, because for me, after seeing the trailer and just like this movie, it feels like it was supposed to lead to another joke at some point, and it never does. And I kind of feel the same way towards like the substance joke, and it just turned into a kind of cringy white chicks thing where it's like, oh, we're in the wrong movie. Is like, okay, guys, like as much as I like the white chicks movies, like it didn't do much for me. You know, it felt more of a head nod reference. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It feels a little too self-indulgent at times for my own liking.
Yeah, and I already didn't. I told you after we got out the cinema that I already kind of didn't enjoy Gale Hailstorm or whatever her name is. You know, her return, and then like I mean, it's kind of funny in that like it harkens back to what you were telling me from the first one, where it's kind of their take on, you know, journalism and how they critique, you know, the media and whatnot. And I thought some of that stuff was funny, but she really serves no purpose. And then all she does is like come back for the substance joke, which again, I feel like it's a little too recent as well. And it's kind of just like, why did we feel the need to include that? And then you get to the so the punchline is essentially it's a two-parter. There's the white chicks thing, and then there's just a random Epstein joke, which I didn't understand why that was in there. You know, it's not that I don't want them to make jokes about it. I just didn't understand its placement, I guess. And like, what did that have to do with the substance?
I think it just goes back to like the cutting room stuff and like going back to Cindy. Is it like from what I heard about this is they cut a lot of her like MAGA Republican jokes in this movie.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know why because it's so.
I know why.
I mean, I know why.
We all know why.
But for me, I just don't get the point of going in that direction when it kind of seemed like an obvious hard path to go down in terms of doing the true vision of what you want Cindy to turn into in this film. Like we'll get to the ending stuff late in a little bit, but like I was waiting for them to go full MAGA with her because they kept teasing it and then they never do. And so at that point, I don't know why make her into like this MAGA Republican. Like the joke with her and Brenda when they first meet again, I thought's really good. Like I'm a Republican now, the one from the trailer. Like so funny. And that's the thing is like the stuff that works in this movie, I think really works.
Yeah, I saw that stuff about like the things that they cut out, and I saw like the MAGA stuff that they was supposedly cut or whatever, and it's obviously it's a detriment to like the idea of like, you know, the free speech and all that and whatnot for them to have had to cut that out. But at the same time, I don't think them including it makes it any better either, because it's more just like, haha, this is supposed to be funny, right? I don't think it ever in the original like intention came full circle either. So I feel like just at the end of the day, they shouldn't have included it regardless. I think it is a funny idea, like again playing off the idea of like this I don't know how to describe it, but you know, the idea of like, you know, the Laurie Strode, you know, coming back and being all like, you know, I don't know if gritty's the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, like a hard shell kind of person.
Kind of like that. The idea that they would also be MAGA, like that's kind of funny, but they just don't do anything with it, and so you're kind of just left wondering like, that was whatever.
Yeah, that's like also kind of how I feel towards like Brenda being the Ma character from like Ma. It doesn't go.
I never saw that.
I've only seen it once. It's got like its own subgroup of people that actually really enjoy it. I didn't hate it. I just thought it was kind of like boring. I didn't really like the premise at all. But my issue with the way they joke about it is they just reference she's got the same fuck ass bob as her in the movie, and that's like as far as the joke goes, and like giving kids shots, liquor, and all that, which to me was always something Scary Movie did before like the Ma character was ever a thing, because in that movie she like befriends a bunch of teenagers and like drugs them and gives them a lot of liquor and alcohol and shit like that. And so like that's what it's joking at, but like that already felt like very much a scary movie joke years and years before Ma ever like did that as a true horror film, that it kind of felt flat for me in that like regard, especially like I can't remember if it was her or Cindy who just pulls out like the Glock and shoots the kid by accident after they were saying it's not loaded.
It's Brenda.
It is Brenda, right? Like, dude,
Yeah.
that's the type of shit that I think they needed to lean into more, rather than just giving a lot of half-ass movie references. And I think that's like kind of where I'm in the middle with this.
Yeah. I not all of it lands, and that was kind of the main thing that I was hearing about this movie beforehand, was that, I mean, I did hear a lot of people just saying that it wasn't good, which I wouldn't go that far. It's just some of it
people
works.
just don't like spoofs anymore.
That's
with parodies,
true, yeah.
I think.
But like some of it works, some of it doesn't. The stuff that doesn't is it's more of just like whatever, there wasn't anything that I was just like, oh, that was really terrible, like that was so unfunny, that to the point of like it was cringe and or whatever. I was pretty balanced out in terms of like how much I was laughing during the movie, so I think for the most part it worked for me. And then yeah, the stuff that again, I thought some of it was, or a lot of like the more like skit stuff with where they just like lean into like the references and whatnot. I thought a lot of that was funny. It just doesn't really
Connect well with anything.
Yeah, it doesn't connect well with it. And there were only a couple of things where I was just like, oh, why is that in here? Like we talked about the K-pop Demon Hunters weird like music video thing that they tried to do. I don't understand what that was about. It wasn't funny to me.
It felt like a really quick grasp at trying to get Gen Z or like the current generation into this film, because it just felt so out of place and out of nowhere. And I'm trying to remember what I think the original idea before they went in and like made it K-pop Demon Hunters was literally Shorty just floating in the Get Out Abyss, or like whatever that space was in that movie, and he's just like laughing at a bunch of different shorties with a bunch of different looks. And like,
yeah,
I'd rather personally take that, because I never watched K-pop. I know enough about it, but I never watched K-pop Demon Hunter, and it felt like it was something more specific, like more for a specific audience than anything else they were doing in the film, and that's why it kind of like threw me out. Where, yeah, it's funny, like Shorty saying I want to get fucking high, and all that, but it's just like okay.
We've had like 3 movies at this point completely dedicated to like that joke, and so I was kind of expecting something more, and I don't know, it just I didn't really think it was like it was funny at first, but then it kind of kept going, and I started wondering like, what is this for? And then the ending of it didn't make it better, like where he just kind of like he wakes up in the bed with like 3 hot Asian chicks or whatever, and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, especially after talking, like, having this whole thing about a kid's property thing, like...
Yeah, it
just felt kind of weird.
Movie, and... Yeah, I don't know. I just... I didn't understand it. It was funny in terms of, like, oh, he's, like, singing to, like, a popular song. But then it quickly took, like, a turn, and I was just like, okay, this is a little weird, and I don't know.
The one, like, complaints for this movie that I don't get are, like... I remember when the reviews were first coming out for this, people were talking about Ray's literally just a giant gay joke in this film. Where Ray's always been the funniest character because of how closeted he is. And I think that's, like, it didn't even have to be a Sinners reference at all. But I think that scene by itself was so funny and worked for the rest of the film that it being a Sinners thing, I don't think added anything to it. And like,
it didn't.
that's the thing where I'm conflicted, whereas like sometimes you have these really good scenes like that, but the things they're trying to spoof aren't really spoofing or parodying anything. It's just putting people in like that decade or era's clothing and
Like the
calling it a
set,
day.
yeah.
Yeah, just the setting of it.
My thing is that I feel like the main like joke is it's a parody of a different. I don't know where it's from, but I've seen the clip where that dude's like he's dressed similarly.
Yeah.
And it's in this big like evangelical or church or whatever. Like it was like a mega church or something.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm not gays no more or something like that. And like that, like he's like, I don't like men no more. Like he's saying that over and over. And I thought that stuff was funny, but again, like the whole Sinners-esque style to it
didn't amount to much.
It kind of felt like it didn't go anywhere. And this is another thing that because there's two Sinners jokes in this movie, and the second one is even worse because it actually comes out of nowhere. Like,
but I think the trailer ruins that part for me because the funniest part is the why not no gay shit?
Or like why only half gay or whatever.
Yeah, why only half gay? And it's just like, dude, that's so good, but the trailer ruined it.
I think it also goes on for like a bit too long. Like, I get the joke, but it takes it a little too far of just like, oh, the black characters are just like, yeah, this is dumb, like we're not gonna fall for this, go away or whatever. It goes on for too long. I think if they had just cut it down a little bit, it wouldn't have bugged me so much. But it doesn't help that to get to that point we have to go through all of like the random references, and then just as you think like it's getting back to like the plot, it throws one more in, and you're just like, okay, now I'm just confused because in the movie, like in the context of the movie, the three characters that are playing the vampires or whatever is Jack and Cindy's two daughters. But the scene before that, like the last time we saw them, they were like, oh, we're leaving. And then all of a sudden they're just back at the party and they're dressed up like this. And we're just like, okay, but why? Like, why are we here? Like, how did this happen? And it's made even worse that immediately following that, they explain why they're there. And I'm like, couldn't you just like cut to that sooner of us like understanding the explanation for why they were here? And I don't know. It just, the Sinner stuff just pretty much amounts to nothing. Even in the context of that scene as well.
I thought the doofy stuff was pretty funny for me, like him with his like asshole fingers, like that. I'm a poop joke kind of guy. I don't know how else to put it. So I thought that was funny. When he like smidged the mask with like his shit stain, and bro, that just like threw me out. And like that's what I kind of wish I wanted a little bit more of in this movie, rather than just half-ass parodies. Because they even try redoing the scene from the first movie where they're all doing the "was up" and stuff like that. Just like a more modern version.
The Twitch
the Twitch stream. Like it's one of those things where it was funny at first, and then it just kept going, and it kept going, and then okay, Kai Cenat, who like I'll be honest, I
didn't recognize him at first.
Yeah, dude, he
looks really completely different from what I'm used to seeing him as.
I just don't think he's very entertaining. So just watching them chop his head off, I'm like, okay, next scene, like please. And that's where I'm kind of like torn with like a lot of this movie.
I will say that it's one of the few parts of the movie that is somehow actually related to the plot, because it actually has something to do with Ghostface, like as opposed to some of the other stuff. Like the Candyman reference too, I forgot about that one.
So did
like,
I.
Why is that in there? Like what? Because it really serves no purpose. It's not particularly funny. And then you immediately, like, the part is that I realized that we could have skipped that scene, because then immediately following that is we cut to the party that's going on, and like she's handing out the Jello shots or whatever, Brenda is, and then Shorty comes in and he's like, oh, where's all my shit? Where's all my stuff? And she's like, oh, I was handing it out to the trick-or-treaters. And then he's like, oh, that was my stash. And it's just like, okay, why did I need to see him like summoning the Candyman to buy drugs from him? Like, what was the point of that? And then it immediately goes into the weapons thing.
I was just about to mention that, like, and then it goes into like a weird weapons reference that
I thought it was funny, but it doesn't help that, again, we've spent so much time on these like out of place references. Like if it happens once every like few scenes or so, then that's fine. But they happen like back to back.
That's why I like the Terrifier one.
Because it's a flashback.
Because it's a flashback, it has like something to do with the plot, but is also its own little segment that dude, whenever we get to the Terrifier movies, that scene in Terrifier is fucking insane, bro. Like, this movie couldn't do it justice. Like, that's how crazy it is. And I wish they went a little bit further because of how ridiculous those films are. But I still thought it was funny enough to where it got a few good chuckles out of me. And then, yeah, the film just doesn't do more of those type of let's step away from the main plot, but still connect it in a way, and still make these funny bits happen.
Yeah, I think we could have the substance stuff could have been cut. The Candyman thing could have been cut. I think the weapons one stuff. I think all the long leg stuff. I think the weapons thing is funny, and if all that other stuff was not present, and the K-pop Demon Hunters thing too, cut that shit out. I think without all of that other stuff bogging it down, then it's not. I think for the purpose of like telling the joke, it's fine as long as it's not doing it. And it's one of the shorter jokes too, is the other thing. Like, it doesn't last very long. And I did hear people like in the theater reacting to like the joke, so it was funny. Yeah, it just needs to be less of that stuff, and just we can get to the point and it'll still be funny, and it doesn't need to reference anything and everything all at the same time. But then once we get into the final act of the movie,
it saves a lot of this film.
It does. It really does. The ending makes up for a lot of that other stuff, and in a really in a way that I wasn't expecting it to, and I was a little bit kind of miffed by like the ballerina stuff, but I think it ends up kind of working. And I made fun of like the first Scary Movie for its weird like Matrix fight parody or whatever, and I think it works better in the sequels when they do that kind of stuff. And I felt this one, it was fine, and I at this point I was just happy to see something that other than like, oh, we're just gonna reference a bunch of these popular horror films.
Well, I thought that moment worked because I think what made it really funny is the fact that just like ghost faces just keep coming out of nowhere, and she just keeps beating them up, and you're like, dude, what the fuck is going on? And so
it does lead into a good joke too. It leads into a good joke of them being like, oh, there's billions of Waynes, like as if they were all the Waynes family was just playing the ghost faces. I thought that was funny. So it works. It ends up working. And then we get to the real meat of the ending, which is the twist, the
killer reveals.
The killer reveals, dude.
For black men, that's progressive, or something like that. And I'm just like, dude, this is fucking insane. Like, what is going on?
The idea of like who the killers were, because obviously in the first one, Ray is a killer, along with Bobby or whatever,
and Doofy.
Doofy is the real killer.
The real killer.
Yeah, and so I liked the throwback to having Ray and someone else be part of like the killers. But it was interesting that they decided to bring like two other characters into it as well, which was Anthony Anderson and Shaquille O'Neal, because they couldn't get Kevin Hart. He said no, I guess. Like, all that stuff was hilarious. Like that entire interaction between them was hilarious, and I liked that like the motivation made sense for why they were the killer. Because again, that was something else that I liked about like Ray and Bobby, is that I liked their motivation and like the joke behind it in the first movie. And then they kind of bring that back for this one. And also, it has to be said that the killer reveals in this movie are way better than whatever the fuck Scream 7 was trying to do.
Any modern Scream film, I would argue.
Yeah. But it also kind of plays up the idea of like having, more than the two killers or whatever. Because Scream 6 did that to lesser effects, let's say.
Well, I like the fact that like they lean into like, oh, it's the family dynamic, but then it also isn't. And I think what makes it funny is the fact that Anthony Anderson and Shaquille O'Neal were like in previous films, and it also helps that Anthony Anderson's also been in a Scream movie after he was in all of the those last 3 Scary Movie films. So like I think all of that worked really well, and like I'll be honest, it genuinely shocked me that they decided to make Shorty one of the killers and just make him into like this like unk who's just mad at the young generation. And so a lot of that just worked for me, and then they just all start killing each other slowly in like these melodramatic fashions, and you're just like, dude, what is going on? But then the real kicker happens where the Wayans brothers and Cindy and Brenda fucking say fuck them kids and just burn them and just call it a day with their ass cheeks out. Amazing.
I thought it was so funny because obviously the big elephant in the room is like the fact that Anna Faris and Regina Hall continued to be a part of the franchise after the Wayans brothers left. And I like that it kind of serves as kind of a little like reconciliation moment of like, you know, we understand that, you know, this kind of stuff happened and it was, you know, out of our hands and whatnot. And then, yeah, just to completely turn it on, like the whole idea of like passing out down of the torch, and they just like, fuck that, we're going to light you guys on fire and call it,
just call it a day.
Yeah, that did a lot for me. Like I was having a good enough time, and then that stuff happened, and I was like, this is pretty good.
They kill off the one problem I had with the movie.
Yeah,
so I
exactly.
appreciate it a ton. Do you want to get into final wrap-ups?
Yeah.
All right, I'll go first. I think I gave this movie 2.5 stars out of 5. For me, out of the Wayans brother like versions of Scary Movie, this is my least favorite, just because I don't feel like a lot of the story parody of this was as tight as the first 2 films. But like I was saying before, I think the stuff that is funny in this movie is really funny. And I think that's what saves it, along with a really solid third act that I think me and you have both said that we weren't expecting in that sense. And for me, it was just nice seeing the 4 of them back together, going back into these roles. And like there was a little bit of sentimental value in it all, and I think that's why I do like the ending as much as I do, outside of them just killing the kids and being like, fuck them kids, fuck Gen Z. Because it was just nice seeing them all in the roles that arguably made them all famous. You know?
Yeah, no, it's not arguable at all.
Well, the Wayans were already pretty popular before.
That's true. That's
you
true.
know,
but I think
they became like main.
I think it made them like iconic though.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because you know, even though like I've heard of the Wayans brother, I've seen like clips of some of their other stuff. This is the movie that they're known for, or the Scary Movie is the.
Yeah, there's very much a reason why they went back to this.
Yeah.
And maybe one day in the future, I mean, not anytime soon, but maybe we'll watch the Haunted House films, because I didn't say this before. That was part of like my little gripe with this is it was shot and filmed very much like those movies, and it's the same director, so I'm not terribly shocked. But for me, I think the thing with those first 2 movies is they tried to genuinely look and feel like horror films. This kind of just felt like a bunch of studio shit happening, you know?
I mean, I agree with that, but I feel like that might have been part of the joke, because it is supposed to look like, you know, the Scream movies, and they kind of have that similar feel. At least the more recent, since Scream 5, like
that's fair.
And like Scream 7 looks like shit. We talked about that. That movie looks like shit. This movie, I think, is fine in terms of visuals. Anyways, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, which for me just means like it's solid. And yeah, I mean, I think that best describes it. It's I'm kind of teetering on whether or not I think it's the same or slightly better than the first one. I still have to return to the first one.
It's not.
I think for me, I think
you
it
need
has
to watch
a lot
I Know What
of,
You Did Last Summer before you rewatch that.
I think it has a lot of similar issues that I had with the first one, if albeit for like different reasons. But Yeah, I don't know. I think this was fine. It definitely could have been a lot worse. And
I'd rather rewatch this one over the last three. So this is far more an enjoyable film.
I'm trying.
Than the
What
last
did I
three
give?
scary
I don't remember
movies.
when I gave the silent or scary movie 3. Okay, yeah,
I think I
gave
gave
it
it
a 2.5.
like 2.
So yeah, this is definitely better than Scary Movie 3, and I think Scary Movie 2 is still my favorite. I think I just have more. I get more out of it being slightly more familiar with like the genre that it's parodying, and I just thought the jokes were funnier. And I think this one, I'm kind of torn on. I think the concept of the first one works really well for the most part, but I think this one has funnier like laugh out loud joke moments. But anyway, so yeah, 3 out of 5.
I'm really afraid to ask you this next part because I know what we're watching next. But Leo, what are we watching next week, man?
All right, next week we're gonna be taking a look at an interesting movie, I guess we'll say. Supergirl is coming out towards the end of the month. The new James Gunn version. And so we thought we'd wrap up our Superman journey by watching the 1984 spin-off Supergirl, which is obviously a spin-off of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. I've never seen it before, so this is my first time watching it. And yeah, so stay tuned for that. We're going to have some... It's going to be a wildly different conversation than the one we just had.
I think far more negative as well.
No, yeah. So yeah, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.